10mm and 40 Smith & Wesson shoot out of the same firearm video. So what we're going to start with is comparison of the two ammos. So you have Ammo Incorporated 40 Smith & Wesson 180 grain TMC projectile with a Ammo Incorporated 10mm 180 grain TMC projectile. The ammo on your right is a 40 Smith & Wesson, and the round on your left is the 10mm. If we move them closer together, you will see that the 10mm is taller than the 40 Smith & Wesson. So what that means is, and we'll see if we can show that, is that the 40 Smith & Wesson will chamber into a 40 Smith & Wesson Glock 22 barrel, just like it's supposed to, and the 10mm will not. It will not go into the chamber completely. If we put the firearm back together, which we will not do for safety purposes, you would notice that it doesn't chamber correctly and the chamber doesn't close. So what we're going to do now is we're going to load up the Glock 20 10mm with a combination of 40 Smith & Wesson and 10mm rounds, and we're going to go out to the range and see if it will function. All right, this is 15 rounds of both 10mm and 40 Smith & Wesson. Not a bad group, under a fist maybe, okay? That's 15 rounds. Obviously it's not dead center, but I haven't sighted this firearm in for me, and that's with this ammo on today at 7 yards. So, 40 Smith & Wesson, 10mm, functions flawlessly out of the same firearm, and hits in the same spot. Welcome to the range. Today we're going to test whether or not you can shoot 40 Smith & Wesson through a 10mm firearm. And you're going to ask, well, why would you even think to do that? Well, you might go on a trip and forget your ammunition and your buddy's got 40 Smith & Wesson and you need to borrow some. Maybe you forgot your ammunition or you just want more and you go to the local small town hardware store and by some miracle they don't have 10 and they have 40 Smith & Wesson. Or you might get a really good deal on some 40 Smith & Wesson target loads and you want to know whether they can shoot through there, and they're a little less expensive than shooting 10mm and a little less recoil just for plinking or practicing whatever you want to do. So today we're going to do that through a Glock 20 Generation 3 in 10mm, and the ammunition we're going to choose is Underwood High Performance Superior Ammunition 155 grain XTP jacketed hollow point that the box says 1500 feet per second for the 10mm. The 40 Smith & Wesson, same brand, same bullet, XTP jacketed hollow point, coming out at 1300 feet per second. So we're going to load it up. First we're going to shoot the 10mm. We're going to shoot it from 7 yards and see what kind of accuracy we get. Then we're going to shoot the 40 and see if that is close or the same or even functions in the firearm. And here are the results. We all know that I'm not Paul and I can't shoot a super tight group like he does every time. But this isn't a bad group. It is off center, but that's the gun or where this ammo hits for today. You can cover it up in no particular order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, that was with the 10mm at 7 yards. So we're going to load it up with 40 Smith & Wesson now, go back to the same place, put up a new target, and see what kind of results we get. So now we're going to shoot the 40 Smith & Wesson, same distance, and we'll see what happens. So here are the results of me shooting the 40 Smith & Wesson caliber out of the Glock 10mm caliber firearm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not a Paul group, but not a bad group. A little off center, but it's the same place as I shot the 10mm ammunition out of this same firearm. So if you find yourself in a pinch, you can shoot 40 Smith & Wesson out of your 10mm caliber firearm. So welcome back into the studio. What we know from our experiments in the field is that you can shoot 40 Smith & Wesson through a 10mm caliber firearm. Given that they're comparable bullet weights and comparable manufacturers, they hit in the same spot and they function flawlessly. Why would you want to do this maybe? Well, maybe you forgot your 10mm on your trip and all your buddy has is 40 Smith & Wesson, and so that's what you have to shoot. Maybe you go down to the local gun store and for some reason they have 40 Smith & Wesson on the shelf but not 10mm. So that's what you're stuck with. Maybe you are out having to scrounge up ammo and that is what you end up with. Or you just want to find a less recoiling round in 40 Smith & Wesson for target practice. Whatever the reason, we know that you can safely shoot 40 Smith & Wesson through 10mm. What we also know from this video is that you cannot shoot 10mm through your 40 Smith & Wesson. It shouldn't function, it shouldn't even chamber, but don't try it. In conclusion, we know that 40 Smith & Wesson and 10mm are one-way interchangeable. You can shoot 40 Smith & Wesson out of the 10mm. You cannot shoot for 10mm out of your 40 Smith & Wesson. So, don't try this at home. I'm what you might call professional. And thank you for watching Can You Shoot 40 Smith & Wesson and 10mm out of the same firearm video.